Vincent and the Grenadines, island country lying within the Lesser Antilles. In the Eastern Caribbean Sea, it consists of the islands of Saint Vincent and the Northern Grenadine Islands, which stretch southward toward Grenada. The islands of Saint Vincent lies about 20 miles, 32 kilometers southwest of Saint Lucia and 100 miles, 160 kilometers west of Barbados. It is 18 miles, 30 kilometers long and has a maximum width of 11 miles, 18 kilometers. The larger islands of the Grenadines associated with Saint Vincent are Bique, Canouan, Mayru, Mustique, Prune or Palm Islands, Petit Saint Vincent Islands, and Union Island. The Tobago Cays, just to the east of Mayro, have been designated a wildlife reserve. The name Saint Vincent originally applied to the mainland and the group of smaller islands associated with it. After the attainment of independence in 1979, the multi-island state was renamed Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. The capital and major port is Kingstown. On Saint Vincent, the country is a member of the Commonwealth. The island of Saint Vincent is thickly wooded volcanic mountains running north, south, and many short slopes. Though numerous, the extremes are small except after heavy rains. There are no navigable rivers. The island's two highest peaks are both on the volcano Soufriere, 4,048 feet, 1,234 meters, and 3,864 feet, 1,178 meters in the north, which erupted disastrously in 1812 and 1902, seriously affecting the country's agriculture and temporarily displacing residents of communities around the foothills of the volcano. The 1902 erupted coincided with that of Mount Pelée on Martinique. Soufriere became active again in 1979, repeating the cycle of agricultural damage and massive evacuation. The volcanic ash, which spreads as far as Barbados, is said to have enhanced the fertility of the soil. Other noteworthy peaks of the island includes Grand Bohome and Mount St. Andrew. Some 7/10 of the inhabitants are descended from Africans who were enslaved and brought to work on the sugar plantations, and nearly 1/4 of the population is of mixed African, European, and Carib ancestry. There are small minorities of people of South Asian, European, and Carib descent. Those of mixed African and Carib descent are known as the Garifuna. English is the official language, and English patois is commonly spoken and referred to in some academic quarters as nation language. That is a post-colonial version of a language that was imposed by colonizers. In this case, English that incorporates underground language codes from formerly suppressed language. In this case, the African language of the slaves. Vincent and the Grenadines vertically striped blue, yellow, green national flag with 3 green lozenges, diamonds in the center. The flag's width-to-length ratio is 2:3. The coat of arms of Saint Vincent shows peace and justice, represented by 2 women, one holding an olive branch, peace, and the other making a sacrifice over an altar, justice. This design with the Latin motto Pax et Justitia, peace and justice, was used as a flag badge on the British blue inside when Saint Vincent was an associated state of the United Kingdom from 1969 to 1979. Independence on October 27, 1979. However, a national flag designed by Elaine Liverpool was introduced. The arms were shown on a green breadfruit leaf, recalling the introduction of breadfruit in St. Vincent by Captain William Blaine. The background of the flag consisted of vertical stripes of blue, yellow, and green separated by narrow white stripes. Color of symbolism is unchanged from the original flag. Green is for the rich vegetation of the islands and the vitality of their people. Yellow stands for golden suns and personal warmth. And blue is for sea and sky. The new flag was officially hoisted on October 22, 1985. Is Protestant and less than one-tenth of the population is Roman Catholic. The spiritual Baptist or Shaker, as it was known in St. Vincent, church as syncretic Protestant African faith, was banned from 1912 to 1960s. But in the late 20th century, the church began a significant resurgence. There are also branches of North American evangelical churches, and there are smaller numbers of Hindus and Muslims. Life exactly is about 70 years for males and in the mid-70s for females. St. Vincent and the Grenadines once had one of the highest birth rates in the West Indies. That figure declined drastically in the late 20th century. However, largely as the result of government family planning efforts, by the early 21st century, it was roughly equivalent to the West Indian average. The rate of natural increase declined likewise over the same period. The country has a high rate of immigration. Vincent and the Grenadines agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. The economy of St. Vincent is chiefly agricultural. The country is one of the world's few producers of arrowroot. Despite a major decline in the industry, St. Vincent was one of the greatest exporter of it. Cotton and sugarcane were formerly important to the economy, but since the second half of the 20th century, bananas have been the leading export and cotton is no longer grown. Other important crops include sweet potatoes, plantains, yams, coconuts, and dashens, and edus, types of taro. Rice and flour are milled from imported white cargo or rice and wet. These agriculture products are used locally and imported to neighboring Caribbean countries. The interior of the islands of St. Vincent is still forested, though there is significant encroachment on the woodland. There is a growing fishery industry, both offshore and inland, that produce for local consumption, as well as for export to other Caribbean islands and to the United States, particularly to locations on the eastern seaboard such as Miami and New York City. Lobsters, conch, tuna, and swordfish are the main seafoods exported. Manufacturing and trade manufacturing is a minor economic importance. There is some focus, however, on light manufacturing, on the milling of rice and flour, and on the production of beer. There are also plans for distilling rum, building yachts, and making boxes for locally produced beer and the packing of bananas. Vincent and the Grenadines is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary from a government. The British monarch is the head of state and is represented by an appointed governor-general. A prime minister, the leader of the majority party, is the head of government. The unicameral legislature is the House of Assembly. Is the major cultural event. The Nine Mornings Festival takes place in Kingstown in the 9 mornings preceding Christmas. while traditionally it consisted of early morning street parades accompanied by caroling, bicycle races, and other festivities. The focus now in Kingstown is on early morning street concerts in the rural areas. Celebrations of his festival are more diverse and include attempts to revive dying cultural practices. Some of the Grenadines islands have annual regattas that include carnival-type activities. Kingstown has a number of cultural heritage sites. They include the Botanical Gardens, founded in 1765, and Fort Charlotte, 1806. Of architectural interest is the Georgian-style St. George Anglican Cathedral. Other 18th and 19th century buildings include the courthouse and the House of Assembly, which occupy the same building, and the police barracks. Traditional cultural practices such as tea meetings or ceremonial speech and singing demonstrations are occasionally held, and there has been some emphasis but on dance drama and music festivals. Calypso soca, which blends traditional calypso and Indian rhythmic instruments, and Jamaican dancehall and reggae music trend to dominate the country's music charts. Before the time of European contact, St. Vincent was first inhabited by the Siboney, who were joined and eventually displaced or conquered by an Arawak people who had originated in Venezuela and settled the West Indies about a century before the arrival of European explorers. The Arawak were themselves displaced by another group and Carib who originate from South America. The Caribs registered frequent British, French, and Dutch attempts to settle in St. Vincent, but they eventually allowed limited French settlement of the islands when caused in the early 18th century. This move was likely aimed at gaining French support against the more aggressive English. In 1763, with the Treaty of Paris, Britain was granted control of St. Vincent and settlement proceeded, although the Caribs refused to accept British sovereignty. In 1779, the islands was seized by the French, but in 1783 it was restored to Britain under the Treaty of Versailles. The Caribs' ongoing resistance to British presence led to two wars, 1772, 73, and 1795-96. The Caribs were exiled following the second.